Welcome to NFL Daily by Chat Sports. I am Will Scott, and today we are sponsored by Mint Mobile. Our newest sponsor here at Chat Sports is offering cell phone plans starting as low as $15 per month. We'll tell you more about them later on in today's show. In today's show, we're going to be talking about NFL coaches on the hot seat. I'm going to rank them 8 to 1. Some of these guys are going to keep their jobs, others maybe not. And I want to hear from you before we get into my list. Name a coach who you think is on the hot seat. Go down in the comments section. Let me know, who do you think is on the hot seat going into the 2022 NFL season. We begin with Dan Campbell. NFL's, that feels like everyone's favorite coach in the NFL, right? I love Dan Campbell. Hard Knocks has made me love this guy even more. But nonetheless, he's coming off of a 3-win season last year. They're expected to be much better this year, and they have to be much better, or otherwise Dan Campbell might be in trouble. The Lions last year as a team did not rank statistically well in any category. They obviously had a 3-13-1 record, points per game, 19.1. That ranked 25th in the league. Scoring defense, 27.5 points per game they gave up. That ranked second to last in the NFL. So, look, the Lions have improved. They got Aiden Hutchinson in the draft, Jameson Williams. This is going to be a much better football team. So anything better than last season should be enough for Dan Campbell. I know a lot of Lions fans are thinking maybe 8 or 9 wins, maybe even a miracle run to the NFL playoffs, but a 5 or 6 win season should be enough to get Dan Campbell a third year. Over under 6.5 wins, though, I want to ask you all that because that is the win total that BetUS is setting. Go down, chime in, over or under. Type O for over 6.5 wins or type U for under 6.5 wins. Let's get to Pete Carroll because the Seahawks are going to be a very, very bad football team this year. And I get it. Pete Carroll's a legend. He's got a 193 and 119 record in 12 years as the Seahawks head coach. Of course, won the Super Bowl back 9 years ago in 2013. So this is a great coach. However, the Seahawks are not going to be good. Maybe they're trending in a direction that they feel like maybe a fresh start and a new coach would be the right move. Now, for the first time since 2011, Pete Carroll is going to have a new quarterback. Russell Wilson was traded to the Broncos, so we've been seeing that QB competition in Seattle between Drew Lock and Geno Smith, so not a super ideal quarterback situation that Carroll has right now in Seattle. So after next season, they might want to go in a different direction. Look, they're not going to fire Pete Carroll, right? You can't fire Pete Carroll, but he might retire. They might encourage him to retire because they want to move on. I think that's very possible if the Seahawks are expected to be as bad as expected. I want to tell you about our friends over at Mint Mobile because they're bringing you unlimited talk and text, high-speed data, a mobile hotspot, and most importantly, cell phone plans starting as low as $15 per month. Your mom might ask you to stop calling so much because you're going to have all this unlimited data for so cheap, $15 per month. Look, Mint Mobile is trying to help you save money. We're all trying to save money right now with inflation. Mint Mobile is a great way to do that. To get that deal, you got to go to mintmobile.com/chatsports. That link is going to be in the comments and the description of this video. Let's stay over there in the NFC because Kliff Kingsbury might be in some trouble. Now, Kliff, has won some games over there in Arizona. They started last season 7-0. However, they finished the season very, very poorly. 4-7 finished to that season. They were eliminated by the Rams 34-11 in the NFC wildcard round. I mean, anybody who watched that game, you saw a football team that did not show up in the biggest game of the season, the playoffs. The Rams ran all over the Cardinals en route to obviously winning the Super Bowl. So Kliff Kingsbury has developed a reputation for not finishing the season well. Dating back to his first year as the head coach at Texas Tech, games 1-7, he has a very good 42-20 record. After that, 17-45. Even as a college head coach, he could not finish strong. That is a massive problem, and I think the Cardinals know that it's a massive problem, and that is why the pressure is on Kliff Kingsbury this year. This is a Cardinals team with a lot of talent on both sides. They obviously gave Kyler Murray that big extension. They've given Kyler Murray kind of a vote of confidence. Now, Kliff, I mean, I'm sure even if he starts the season poor, they'll still express their confidence in Kingsbury, but he has to produce this year. He has to finish the season strong. I don't think that it's going to be make or break in terms of a playoff win, but he has to get to the playoffs. If he does not get to the playoffs, that's going to be a massive problem for him. They might look to move in another direction. But Kliff Kingsbury's got to make the playoffs this year. Otherwise, he might be in some trouble over there. Let's get to number 5 on my list now. That is Frank Reich. And this team missed the playoffs last season. This Colts team did not make the playoffs. They started the year 9-6. All they had to do was win one of their final 2 games. They lost both of them, including that last game to the Jacksonville Jaguars where they got dominated. So it was a very disappointing ending to that season for the Colts last year. They traded Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders and acquired Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons this offseason. And Colts owner Jim Irsay has high expectations for this season. It's to go and get that next Lombardi trophy, he said about the expectations. This is a time to set up another generation of greatness. We went through the season with some inconsistency at quarterback that led to massive problems. We're set up for excellence now. Now we just have to do it. And Matt Ryan has that same feeling in his heart. You know that difficult loss to the Patriots in the Super Bowl when Ryan was with the Falcons. He's here to get his Lombardi. This is the time. Hate to break it to you, Jim. Your football team's not going to be that good this year. That is my prediction. And yeah, they're going to be in that race in the AFC South with the Titans. But the Titans are the better team. Tennessee's going to win that division. And then you look at the battle for the wild card spots. The AFC is just way too loaded. You got the Ravens, the Bengals, the Dolphins all vying for maybe wild card spots along with all those AFC West teams like the Chargers and the Raiders. I mean, this is just way too loaded of a conference. The Colts are not going to get into the playoffs. That's my prediction. Matt Ryan is definitely, I wouldn't even say definitely, he probably is an upgrade over Wentz, but not a huge upgrade. So I want to ask y'all, will the Colts make the playoffs? Type M for make or type W for won't down in the comments section. I think this Colts team finishes with maybe 8 or 9 wins, not good enough to make the AFC playoffs. And if that happens, Reich might be on the hot seat. Lovie Smith is on the hot seat. And I know what you're thinking. Well, he's in his first year as the Texans head coach. You can't put a first-year head coach on the hot seat. Did they really want Lovie Smith as the head coach? That's the question I have, because he was promoted to head coach after he was the defensive coordinator last season, but he never was really in the running for that job. I mean, it came down between Josh McCown and Brian Flores. And when Brian Flores filed the lawsuit, they're like, we don't really want to hire Josh McCown because that's a bad look with the Flores lawsuit going on. And we don't want to hire Brian Flores because he's filing an active lawsuit against the NFL, so we'll just promote Lovie. That's what happened down in Houston. Lovie Smith, I don't even think they really wanted Lovie to be the head coach in Houston. And that when you look at what he's done as a head coach the last several seasons, he did not have a great stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then he became the head coach of the Illinois Fighting Illini, was not very good there. I don't know how he got 5 seasons there. 3-9 in 2016, 2017, 2-10, 4-8, 6-7. Was fired after a 2-5 start to the 2020 season, and then somehow he gets another job as a head coach with the Houston Texans. He's a pretty solid DC with Houston. We'll see how he does as the head coach, but I think this was a stopgap hire. You know, they were into the coaching search and realized, well, we can't hire McCown, we can't hire Flores, so we'll just promote Lovie and we'll let him be the coach for 1 or 2 years. I think that's what went down in Houston, and if the Texans are as bad as they were last year, maybe they'll look to move on from Lovie Smith, much like they did with David Culley last year. Now, before we get into more head coaches on the hot seat, I want y'all to go down and subscribe because we're bringing you the best NFL news coverage. Go down, hit that big red subscribe button if you're an NFL fan. You might be surprised to see Arthur Smith this high up on my list, but I have him number 3 right now of the Falcons head coach because the Falcons are going to be very, very bad this year. And Arthur Smith had a 7-10 record in his first year as the head coach last season after coming over from Tennessee where he was the offensive coordinator. And I look at this Atlanta team. They lost Matt Ryan. They lost Calvin Ridley. This is going to be maybe the worst team in the National Football League. Now, taking a look at how they did last year, Arthur Smith was hyped up to be this offensive guru. Their offense sucked, 18.4 points per game. Their defense was not good, 29th in the league, giving up 27 points per game. So they got to show some improvement, and they're expected to be much worse than they were last year. That's why I'd be worried if I were Arthur Smith. Here is what Sports Illustrated said. Blank, the owner, has proven multiple times that they'll give his regime several years to build the organization in the manner that they want. And he'll surely understand that Smith is still working with a roster in transition. As such, unless the 2022 season is outright horrendous from top to bottom, Smith shouldn't be looked at as a likely candidate to lose his job. However, if the Falcons post a subpar record, but Smith still retains his job, look for his seat to gain a considerable amount of heat next offseason. Will Arthur Smith keep his job? Type K for keep or type F for fired down in the comment section. I think SI makes a good point. I think that if they have a very bad season this year, that his seat will be very, very hot going into next year. But, man, if they start 0-5, 0-6, which is possible when you look at this roster, his seat's going to continue to get pretty hot throughout the season, and then they will have a pretty tough decision to make in terms of retaining him in Atlanta. This is going to be a very, very bad football team. Mike McCarthy's seat is very, very hot. The last two coaches we're going to talk about are by far the terms of coaches on the hot seat, because Mike McCarthy, we've talked a lot about him maybe being fired in Dallas after this season and hiring a pretty notable name. We're going to get to that name in a second. But 18-15 record in his first 2 years in Dallas, a 12-5 season last year, no playoff wins in his first two seasons in Dallas. Here's what Jerry Jones said about McCarthy's status. I want to be real clear. He wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't think he was the man to lead this team to a Super Bowl. He would not be, and I have choices. Here's what Jerry said about the expectations. I need to win it all. We need to be in the playoffs. We need to be viable in the playoffs to have a successful season. That coming from Jerry Jones. Of course, last season, the Cowboys were bounced in the wild card round by the San Francisco 49ers. That loss was at Jerry World. Sean Payton has been a coach that has been linked to the Cowboys a lot after he retired from coaching with the Saints after the 2021 season. He's been linked to Dallas. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it would certainly explain why Payton is not coaching this season, because he's eyeing Dallas next season. Now, who do you think is going to be the Cowboys' 2023 head coach? Is it going to be Mike McCarthy, type MM? Is it going to be Sean Payton, type SP? Or if it's going to be someone else, type O, chime in down in the comment section. I have no idea how this guy still has a job. How does Matt Rhule, producer Jeff Cooperson, how does Matt Rhule still have a job? I have no idea, but he is number one on my list. It's really not even close. Like, he's one, McCarthy's two, Arthur Smith is three. The top two guys are pretty clear, but Matt Rhule, the clear number one, whose seat is the hottest going into this upcoming season, because here's how it went down in his first 2 years in Carolina. They gave him that massive contract after he had a very good stint at Baylor. 5-11 in 2020, 5-12 in 2021. I think a lot of people were wondering, how on earth did this guy keep his job? This is why. The Panthers gave him a 7-year, $62 million deal. Can you imagine how large that buyout is? That is why they gave him another year in Carolina, and I certainly cannot blame ownership for doing that, but I don't see him surviving this season. I think the Panthers will be a little bit better, and in Rhule's defense, I mean, he hasn't really been given much to work with in terms of the quarterback situation. Teddy Bridgewater was his quarterback in 2020. Sam Darnold was his quarterback in 2021. Baker Mayfield is expected to win that job this year. He's certainly a big upgrade, but big enough? I don't know. I don't see Matt Rhule surviving this season. Not to mention he has Ben McAdoo is his offensive coordinator. Good luck, Panthers fans. Who will be the first head coach fired? Go down in the comments section and chime in. Curious to hear what you think.